Here we go. Let's do this.
We've got one life, one shot. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Addicted to Betterment, a podcast to inspire us to keep going, to try something new, to dream, to think big, bigger, to overcome. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Happy Valentine's Day. So there's some of you that are clearly not excited about this holiday. I've definitely had those seasons. There's others that are like, I am so excited about the plans that I have with my partner or a new person in my life. And then there's others that are in the middle, like, hope it's a good one. Well, we wish you the best one. And we thought with Valentine's Day being the holiday of the week, that we'd do an episode on finding and cultivating a loving partnership. So there's some of you that are listening that are in between finding the next amazing person or that right partner for you and you for them. And then there's others that are in a partnership right now that's freaking awesome. And you just want to go, take that 10 level partnership and just keep making it great. And then there's some that are just like, I just know I want to make it better. There's just some places that we're stuck and we're just not thriving. So wherever you are, let's just meet you where you are and talk about what it takes to find and cultivate a loving partnership. David, I know you are extremely passionate about this topic. So kick us off with, let's start with the mindset, like just where we need to come from a mindset foundational place to cultivate that partnership that's filling our cup and filling the other person's cup.
Oh man. Well, I think first of all, I want to say it's worth it, man. Whatever season that you find yourself in, based on exactly what you just said, because we've been in all of those seasons. As you were laying that out, I was listening, thinking, man, I've experienced every single one of those seasons that she's describing. So, getting to the other side of it, if you're on the tough side, or if you're in the middle of the best season of your life, man, it's worth it. I'll just tell you that. As far as the mindset goes, I think in every season that you just described, it starts with yourself. It starts with looking in the mirror and figuring out what are the things that I'm trying to attract and what kind of relationship am I trying to have? Do I want to have? Do I desire? And make sure that I am becoming that. Maybe I'm not that at this very moment, but I'm working as hard as I can to become that. So I think the critical piece of that is just it starts with you.
I think that's great. And the couple of things when I'm just reflecting here for a second on how to lay the foundation or the way to think about getting to this place of, the ideal scenario for cultivating an awesome partnership. Number one is you got to have a vision for what you're going for and clearly articulate that on all fronts. Journal about it, build a spreadsheet, all the categories, because it's really important that we are clear about what it is that we're looking for so that we can get that, whether we're not in a relationship right now and we're looking for that person, or we're in the relationship and we want to get to the ideal. Either way, you got to define the end game that you're going for. And then on the other side of that, it's so much about being me, being the ideal partner. If we want to attract a great partner, we have to be that. So clearly understanding where are we going, what are we trying to do, and how do I make myself the best I can be to be able to build a partnership, because it's not about waiting for the other person to be that. It is us being that and modeling the way for the other person as well. And hopefully they're doing that too.
Yeah, that's so good. I think in order to get super clear on where you want to be or what you want to become, what kind of relationship or who you're trying to find, to do that well, you have to just acknowledge where you are at right now. Be really honest with yourself. If you're in a struggling relationship, look in the mirror, be willing to be honest with yourself. What am I bringing to the table? How am I showing up? Is this going to work? So just being able to actually acknowledge the truth of the relationship you're in now. The challenges. Sometimes I'm guilty of this. We posture to others in where we're at right now, and honestly, we kind of lie to ourselves about the position that we're in right now, or how we're showing up, or how. So I think that starts there, just getting super honest and acknowledging where you're at, and then just acknowledging the importance of growth and getting better, and not just accepting who you are or the situation you're in for what it is, and saying, okay, this is just my life, or this is who I am. You hear that a lot. Well, this is just who I am. So, uh, either like it or don't. Well, how about we become a better version of who you are? Let's start with that. So, acknowledging the importance of growth. And then I think, if I had to tap one more thing, learning to communicate those things well. So it's one thing to acknowledge where you're at, to know where you want to go and what you want to be and who you want to attract. All of that's super important. But if you can't communicate that clearly and well, yeah, it's probably not going to help anyway. So you got to be able to communicate that well.
I love all of that. I start to think about, before we can move forward with getting to that end game that we're going for, we have to identify our blockers, what holds us back, mindset stuff, past stuff. As I was thinking about that, one thing that comes to mind is knowing that you're worthy of that great relationship. Because if you don't believe that you are, you're not going to attract that. And so there's forgiveness work that has to be done on two sides. I mean, at this point right now, I'm guessing everyone that's listening has had some tough relationships in the past. It's normal, right? We all do. It's what we learn from those experiences to take forward and apply those to the future to be better now. So, one, you have to believe that you're worthy of receiving that and that it's possible for you. The other side is the forgiveness work that has to be done. Otherwise, you're going to drag whatever that big anchor is, you're going to drag it forward. And so you have to forgive yourself for the past, and you have to forgive others in your past in order to be clear, to be now future focused or just in the present moment, right? So all we have is the present, and to be future focused on what it is that we want. How am I showing up today with how I believe, what I've let go, and where I want to go for the future? David, when it comes to like blocker stuff, thoughts there, additions?
It's interesting, you know, the head trash that we have, we'll call it head trash, limiting beliefs or whatever it is, based on the circumstances that we've had. So it's two sides. One, we've failed, and so you can beat yourself up or think, oh, as I said before, this is who I am. I've always struggled to do this, or I've always struggled in this area, or whatever. And so you have your own, I'm not worthy, or someone has hurt you, done all the things, and you've struggled with what someone has done to you. And so you have the blockers and the head trash from that. You killed it. Forgiveness, both of yourself and other people. For the other people and what they've done or haven't done, that's more about them. When you really come to, understand and get to a place where you're like, you know what, that's really more about them than it is about me. And so I'm going to forgive them and let them just work on themselves. And then for yourself, man, sometimes that's the hardest piece. Let's just be honest. I speak for myself. It's much easier for me to forgive you for something that you've done to me than it is for me to forgive myself for something I've done. And I think we all struggle with that. And maybe I'm speaking to men. I think this is certainly an area where men specifically really struggle. One, because we often don't have people to talk to about it and work through. We struggle to say, hey, I need help. I'm trying to figure this out. Women, for whatever reason, hats off to you, Nikki, and all your friends, but you guys are much better at talking to your friends, sitting down and having these conversations. Men just struggle to do that, to raise their hand and look at their bro or their best pal or whatever, and have these conversations about the things we're really, really struggling with. We would rather talk about the sports game from last week or the coming up game this week, and keep it at that level. So I love what you said, just trying to believe that you are worthy and that you can have a successful relationship.
It's really hard in the midst of challenge to do that. I just want to note that because somebody listening right now is there and they're like, sounds great, man. And so just want to share that, yep, it is hard for everyone. And the other part is seeing the end game for where you want to go, or believing you're worthy, or forgiveness, all are a constant effort. That you don't do that. And it's like, oh, I found David. So therefore, I'm going to believe in myself forever. And I'm never going to let my past creep in and be bitter, right? Like it's a constant effort, but you have to be in a healthy place to attract a partner. But it's not like, check the box. Okay, I'm done. I'm never going to think of that again. It is attracting that next amazing partner. You got to be in that healthy place. And in the relationship that you're in, it is a regular effort because your past is going to always be there. It's just let's not focus on the past, but let's constantly work to keep ourselves focused in the now and the future. And being able to do that with your partner, where there's been many times that I've told David stories of my past and failed relationships. And I look back and I'll be like, dude, at the same time that I'm complaining about my ex, I'm also remembering I was freaking terrible. But I can't go back there and be like, okay, I'm going to get in this lower vibration state. It is acknowledgement of those things are going to creep in. And it was two sides of the coin. We all have a part in the past and it is going to come up. It's going to sneak in. You're going to have the memories, whatever. And it's this constant effort, and your future partner or your current partner that's healthy with you, you just talk through that when they come up. It's like, can I just rant for a second? Let's just rant. And then you work through that. And so it is a constant effort.
You know, what I'm realizing as you're talking, we said, hey, we love our relationship and we want to do something special for Valentine's Day and talk about love. The reality is it's a deep subject and there's a lot of layers to it. You know, I think back to one of the seasons in my life where I spent a lot of my time posturing and pretending that I had my shit all together and life was great in every area, and and all that thing, and was in the middle of just a terrible relationship that much of the challenge was caused by me. So I'm not, there's no blame to go here. And I remember I had these two really great friends, and I know I've told you this story. I had these two, what I consider some of my best friends at that time, and they asked me, hey, how's things going? And I gave them all the usual answers. Oh, life's good, the boys are this and this is happening, and oh my gosh. And so we had the same surface level conversation that we had 100 million times before. And I got up and I started to walk away, and this is the first time in my life, Nikki, that I ever experienced this, and maybe this is one reason why I'm so passionate about this kind of thing. I suddenly just, it was like a life-changing moment where I said, I don't want to posture anymore. I am a shit show. I'm a disaster. Like, I mean, I personally, inside in my head, in my heart, I felt like my world was crashing. I felt like I was just in a terrible place. And I felt honestly like a terrible human. Like I just felt like a really bad human being. And I was tired of it. I was sick of it. I just didn't want to be that anymore. And I turned around and I sat back down to these two friends and I said, okay, guys, I'm lying. Life is not great. It's actually falling apart. And I kind of just laid out, I would say, a high level version. I didn't even go that deep to the level of my disaster. But I shared, and interestingly enough, I never heard from those two guys again. They were, it was very hurtful at the time. And, I thought they were great friends. And I showed them the real collars, what I would call the real collars of me. Some of the shades you just keep, you posture, you should cover all these up. They didn't know I was a disaster to the level that I was. And I never heard from them again. So moving forward, one of the things that did for me, though, one, it allowed me to understand for myself how really good that felt to just accept and own who you really are. Like just to just accept it and own it. I've learned to apply that to every area of my life. And I tell you what, in a relationship, when it starts, when you can finally do that, when you can finally say, "Hey, this is who I am." To your point of us sharing past failures, past situations that I wouldn't sit and talk to my coworkers about, or my business people, or my friends. I probably wouldn't talk to them about a lot of this stuff. But with my spouse, to be able to sit and actually talk through, man, I was a failure here. So communication, you have to own it yourself first. And you have to be very comfortable with that. Owning it yourself, being very clear, accepting it, and loving yourself for in spite of your failures.
I just want to touch on the value of safe relationships to your comment about the practice of sharing vulnerably with other people where you really are. And when you do that, it's pretty freeing to just do that right there. But what's really needed on the other end, aside from that being freeing, are people that are safe and supportive. So I think the positive in that story is that you were vulnerable and you were real so that you can really hit those things on and change. And it's really important to have those safe relationships around us. And so as you were sharing that, I was just thinking like, damn, I'm grateful for some of the people in my life that are my safe space. And it just encourages me to be more of that for others. Now, when I think about, this conversation today, it's okay, what are we going for? And where is everyone at? And the mindset. And then we talked about, okay, what blocks us? What holds us back? What gets us in a cycle of the not good? Now, how do we move forward? And for some of you that are listening, and it's like you're at a good place, you want to go from good to great. Now, what's that look like? I think of a couple of things. One, dedicating the time to the pursuit of a great relationship and sticking to it. How well are you doing right there? Right. The next thing is constantly investing in bettering yourself for your partnership. When you're better, you show up better for the other person, but you're helping to make that other person better. So if you have two people that are doing that, boom, fire. And then the third thing that comes to mind is understanding your partner's needs and leaning into that. So we all have different needs. The best way I could summarize this, I hope you've heard of the 5 love languages. That's a really great book that illustrates what I'm talking about here. Is there are 5 different ways that we individually want love expressed to us, whether that is words of affirmation or acts of service, or gifts, whatever that is. Take away your needs for a second and just focus on what is it that is their way of needing that. And so when we focus on what it is that they want, whether or not we're like, gifts, really? That's how you show your love. Don't judge, just go with it, right? Like whatever yours is, you do you, right? And let's be that for each other. So the 3 things: dedicating the time and sticking to it, constantly investing in bettering ourselves, and understanding what the other person's needs are and really doing those things.
What you said about investing in yourself, it goes back to, it starts with you. If you just focus, I have this saying: if you work on yourself harder than you work on anything else, your life will be pretty great. And so if you apply that to your relationship, and man, I am so grateful for our relationship. But if I think of times where our personalities, conflict, we're both wired pretty tight. We both go at life pretty hard. And, believe it or not, we do actually have moments where those just don't quite, match up. We don't see eye to eye on things. And almost every single time, if instead of focusing on what you are doing that's annoying me or offending me or hurting my feelings or making me upset or whatever that emotion is, if instead of doing that, I focus on how I am reacting, on how I'm showing up, on what I'm saying, often when I do that, I quickly recognize, oh, actually, I think the problem might be me instead of her, and it just starts with, so if you invest in working on yourself, work on being the best partner you can be, And to segue into the next point that you made, understanding what your partner's needs are. So if you're working on the best version that you can be, and you're understanding what your partner's needs are and leaning into that, that requires communication, to communicate those clearly. The reality is if you say, "Hey, David, it's super important to me that you pick your shoes up and don't leave them by the door when I walk in." I don't think you ever said that to me, but if you did,
Are you saying that because you don't like my shoes by the door?
no. Well, actually, do you mind to pick those up when we?
Noted.
I'm joking. um, but then it's my choice after you've communicated that. Hey, David, it's really important to me. I can handle that one of two ways. And I know every single person listening to this can relate to this dialogue. I can handle that one of two ways. I can be like, oh, you always want me to keep things picked up. Or I can understand, hey, she communicated that that's really important to me. You know what? I'm just going to make sure I pay attention and keep those shoes picked up. And I know that she'll appreciate that because she communicated that. Can you go pick those shoes up, by the way?
Yes. So communication, I mean, you read any relationship book or listen to any podcast, that really is the core. I mean, all of this of what we're saying here is really dependent on how well we communicate needs. And just like the 5 love languages thing, unless you tell the other person, or unless you share the stories of the past or express the forgiveness, right? Like, it's so important to constantly be helping each other communicate better. David, as we continue on here, I'm thinking we wrap up with kind of a popcorn discussion of what we've learned in our relationship that just are the practices of just how we be. So we say a lot. We could be a shit show. We have personalities that are very the same. We're very
Speak
similar.
for yourself. Speak for yourself, girl.
He says this too, just whatever. He's letting his ego in. So keeping our egos in check is so important because, man, like our tendencies, we could be off the tracks so quick if we did not hold ourselves accountable to keeping our egos in check and really being centered in like unconditional love and like forgiveness. And so I think ego in check. I think say sorry fast. I think cancel and move on. I think take a break. Just take a break. Walk away for a minute. Come back when we're in a more centered place. Go breathe. I think choose my battles, right? Like, is this really something that I need to bring up right now? I actually, for me, that's a big one. I work on a lot. It's like, this is not even worth it to bring up. It's stupid and trivial. Keep it spicy, have fun, and live on the edge a little bit. Like, don't be boring. Dream together, vision boards, and, conversations of thinking big. And just the two of us regularly. You got to have that. It's so normal, or let's say typical. It's so typical for people to say, I can't tell you the last time I had a date night. Gosh, we just don't have any time. We are running from kid thing to kid thing and work so busy. That kind of goes back to, what I was saying about the pursuit of a great partnership. You got to block time and stick with it, but you have to have just the two of us regularly. And then taking everything I ever learned in the past and applying it to now to be a better partner. I have failed. I mean, I was 38 years old when I met David, and this is my practice of vulnerability. I went through a lot of shame. I would say I still have 10% of that shame stuff in me, but here it is. I met David when I was 38 and I was divorced twice. I was like, I can't even believe. And going to the belief thing, am I worthy of even finding somebody great? Because as soon as I tell them I've been married twice, I'm still in my freaking 30s. Like, man, the story I had about myself. Well, I've learned to take that message and help other people keep going. I've had people in their 50s and 60s that have gone through like one divorce and live in shame, hear my story and say with tears, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because I have beat myself up. And so to take everything that I've ever learned and just move forward and regularly pour that into our relationship. So, David, that's my popcorn list. I'd love to hear yours.
I think you took all mine. At the top of my list would be keep it fun. I'm so passionate about that. I think people often, you meet, you have fun together, you fall in love, you have great times, you do fun stuff, and then you get married, and the next thing it starts becoming a formal relationship. And we have these parameters and this and that, and it's like, yes, honor, respect your relationship, but dang, keep it fun, because you don't, as humans, we don't lose the need for fun. It's not like, oh, I get old, no, you still need to have fun. Pay attention to the other's needs. You said that earlier, and it's often we want to love the way we need to be loved, or we want to do the things that we need. So if you really make it about the other person, um, listen. So in order to be a great listener, you got to ask great questions. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes it's hard to think of creative questions to ask because you want to ask the same thing. So be intentional. Think of great questions to ask, open-ended questions that can generate great conversation, and then shut up and listen. And then again, I feel like I'm speaking to my men friends here. Make it a priority. Your spouse, your significant other, your kids, they should not get your leftovers. They don't deserve your leftovers. They deserve just the same intention and the same effort of as your work is getting, as your job is getting, as your customers are getting. I promise you, your customer, your biggest customer, your best customer doesn't deserve a better version of you than your significant other does. And when you lose sight of that, man, you're dropping the ball. And then the other thing, you touched on it slightly earlier, but about it's got to be a safe place. Trust is a big word. And when we think of trust, it does include this, but we usually just think, well, I trust that she's not cheating on me or he's not cheating on me. And that's genuinely or generally what we see as trust. And that is part of it for sure. That's a big part of it. But in my mind, trust is way bigger than that. I need to be able to trust you with me. I need you to be able to trust me with you. And that's where trust starts. So people think, at a high level, we have this misconstrued idea that trust is he's not texting another woman, he's not calling other women, he's not seeing other women, he's not cheating on me, she's not cheating on me, she's not doing that's a symptom. That's a symptom of the problem. The root cause down deep of that is we're not trusting each other with ourselves. And so, one, I have to communicate it, but two, I have to be able to trust you with it. And so, it's a hard, deep subject. And let's just be real. It's why relationships often are a struggle, because these are not easy things to do. And so, here's what I can tell you. If you do these things and do the work, it is so freaking worth it.
So good. Well, I'll say that my greatest takeaway today, and I'll just remind you that half the time that David and I record these episodes, we listen to them and we're like, man, I listened to that today. I have like 7 takeaways of what I'm saying. So just know we're on this addicted to betterment journey too. The ideal or what we know in our mind is not what we do all the time. And the hottest one on my list is listening. I've gotten worse at that. And I feel like I give my listening to my team. I give my listening to my sales prospects. I don't do a great job giving my listening to David. So I need to step that up. David, take us home.
Oh man, Addicted to Betterment, we started this as a hobby because we talk about this stuff all the time with each other, with our friends, with our coworkers, our clients. It's a journey. There's no finish line. There is no finish line where you look at each other and say, ha, 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 I made it. I'm here. It's an ever evolving journey. Addicted to Betterment is us sharing this journey, this brotherhood of humanity that we are all in. Every single one of us is in this brotherhood of humanity. We all have our areas that we're failing. We all have our areas that we're getting better and that we're killing it. And relationships is one of those areas that we all have those seasons. Thank you for sharing this journey with us. We hope that your Valentine's Day is one that you make it a priority and you make it fun, and it's worth it. So, you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to betterment. Please subscribe to the show, share with your friends, tag us, and please take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.